Stephen A. Smith has officially run out of patience with LeBron James's free agency silence. Weeks after LeBron told the Lakers he was moving on, he's still without a team. And this time, Stephen A. isn't softening his tone. His latest comments have ignited a real debate across the NBA world. Let's break down what's actually happening. Stephen A. didn't hold anything back. On his own podcast, he opened with a line he'd repeat more than once in the days that followed, that he was fed up with this story, plain and simple. Then he clarified himself because he knew how that would land. It wasn't that he was tired of LeBron the person, it was the process, the waiting, the fact that free agency, which usually wraps up in days, had dragged into weeks with no resolution in sight. Smith laid out exactly what he believed was going on. "Don't tell me," he said, "that this is a man who doesn't enjoy the drama, doesn't enjoy the suspense, and isn't thinking about the marketing angle." Then came the line that got clipped everywhere, his blunt insistence that LeBron already knows exactly where he's headed and that making the call shouldn't be this difficult. He wasn't alone in that sentiment, and that's what made this feel like more than one guy venting on cable. Kendrick Perkins, a former center who's known James for years and has typically been in his corner, sat down on NBA on ESPN and used a word that stuck: grandstanding. He defined it, calling it the act of performing in a showy way to impress others. Then he went a step further, saying he believed LeBron already knows exactly where he wants to land. Perkins added that if he were in LeBron's position, he'd probably do the same thing, but that didn't make it any less frustrating to watch play out. Then there's Shannon Sharpe, who's had his own history of friction with James, coming at it from a completely different angle. When NBA Commissioner Adam Silver publicly admitted the league couldn't finalize its 2026-27 schedule, no opening night, no Christmas Day lineup, until James made his decision, Sharpe pointed out the irony. He noted that Silver had personally asked James to speed things up because the league couldn't lock in its calendar, and questioned how someone supposedly nobody wanted could have the commissioner asking that much of him. Three respected voices, three very different tones: Smith exasperated, Perkins clinical, Sharpe almost defending James, but all circling the same reality. Nobody outside LeBron's inner circle actually knows what's coming, and everyone's grown tired of waiting to find out. Here's why this actually matters, beyond just media noise. LeBron's free agency has become genuinely difficult for a lot of analysts to sit through. Since he told the Lakers he wouldn't be returning, the 41-year-old has been going through the longest, most significant free agency stretch of his career. Despite offers reportedly coming in, no decision has been made, and it's sent the basketball world into something of a frenzy. That's not just one insider's take, that's the literal shape of the situation. A four-time MVP, a wide-open market, and total silence on the timeline. And it's not only media pressure, the league itself has a stake in this. Silver's comments weren't a throwaway remark. They were an acknowledgement that broadcast partners, schedule makers, and marketing departments are all waiting on one man's decision. That's the scale Stephen A. is reacting to. It's not just about where LeBron plays, it's that the NBA literally can't finish building its calendar until he says something. So how did we get here? How does a four-time champion who's navigated free agency before end up holding an entire league schedule hostage to his silence? To understand why Stephen A. lost his patience, you have to rewind to the moment this all started, the day LeBron told the Lakers he was done, and everything that followed. The dominoes started falling before most fans even realized what was happening. LeBron informed the Lakers that the franchise could move forward without him because he intended to play elsewhere. Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul relayed that to ESPN's Shams Charania directly, a single conversation that reset the entire league's summer. What made things complicated from day one is that this wasn't a clean, defined exit. James instructed Rich Paul to reach out across the league, gather what the real options were, and bring them back so he could make an informed decision. And while LeBron was committed to playing a 24th season, he hadn't decided whether it would be his last. In other words, even the people closest to the situation didn't know how this would end, not just where he'd land,
but whether there'd even be a final chapter to this story at all. The market moved fast. Sources told Shams Charania the Golden State Warriors were among the teams planning to pursue James once the negotiating window opened, especially after Draymond Green turned down his $27.6 million player option, a move that gave Golden State the flexibility to chase both LeBron and a potential trade with the Wizards for Anthony Davis, which would have reunited former Lakers teammates in the Bay. Green didn't just quietly walk away from that money either. He explained publicly that his choice came down to loyalty to the organization after 14 years there and a willingness to work with the front office at this stage of his career. That single move reshaped the entire Warriors' pursuit. It's the kind of move that could realistically be what pulls James toward Golden State, a franchise he battled 4 times in the finals during his Cleveland years, and where he holds close relationships with Green, Steph Curry, and Coach Kerr. Suddenly, one of the frontrunners had a real, tangible reason behind it, not just speculation, but an actual roster mechanism opening the door. Cleveland entered the race too, and their pitch carries weight none of the other suitors can match, a true homecoming built on the more than 1,000 regular season and playoff games James played for that franchise across 11 seasons. The Cavaliers even restructured their own cap situation to make room for James, with James Harden's decision on his option playing directly into how much flexibility they'd have to work with. Philadelphia entered the conversation as a legitimate contender on paper, likely the best roster among the interested teams, even if the city itself isn't seen as the most attractive destination. Miami, meanwhile, stayed lurking in the background the entire time, with Stephen A. himself floating the idea that if James called Pat Riley wanting to team up with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bam Adebayo, there's no chance Riley turns that down. And this wasn't just 4 teams politely waiting in line. Things got messy fast. A wave of major trades reshaped the league that summer, including Giannis Antetokounmpo landing with the Miami Heat and Jaylen Brown being dealt to the Philadelphia 76ers. Heading into the draft, there wasn't a bigger storyline in basketball than where the 22-time All-Star would end up. Nearly every major move that offseason connected back in some way to clearing cap space or building a roster shaped around the possibility that James might show up. By the time free agency officially opened, front offices were acting less like executives and more like recruiters, pitching James through voice memos sent to Rich Paul and relayed back to him, with who exactly recorded those memos serving as its own signal of how seriously a team was pursuing him. Some organizations sent role players to make their pitch. Others sent the people at the very top. Philadelphia, for instance, had 76ers ownership group president Bob Myers appear directly on Rich Paul's own podcast. That's the picture Stephen A. was reacting to when his patience ran out. Not a quiet 2-team race, but a sprawling, voice memo-driven 5-team pursuit, with the league's biggest names saying absolutely nothing publicly. Here's where frustration turns into real confusion, because the people closest to the situation kept sending mixed signals about how close a decision actually was. On one hand, insiders suggested the hardest part was already behind them. NBA insider Chris Haynes reported that Rich Paul told him James had wrapped up gathering information entirely, that LeBron now had everything he needed, and the decision was fully in his hands. That's not a small detail. That's an agent on record saying the pitches were done and the ball was entirely in his client's court, and yet week after week kept passing anyway. That gap between he has everything he needs and an actual announcement is what set Smith off in the first place. He didn't buy that this was simply a tough call requiring more time, and he even referenced LeBron's infamous televised announcement leaving Cleveland, pointing out this wasn't the first time a career decision of his had turned into a spectacle. Then came a wrinkle that gave LeBron's camp some cover. NBA insider Mark Stein reported that the delay might not have anything to do with ego and everything to do with timing around one of the biggest events on the global sports calendar. According to Stein, word around Las Vegas during Summer League was that LeBron might hold off announcing his decision until the following week, specifically to make sure it got its sports media's full attention once the 2026 World Cup wrapped up. If accurate, that reframes the wait as strategic scheduling around a global event, not stalling for attention. That detail landed differently with different fans. Some saw it as reasonable, others saw it as proof of exactly the calculation Smith had been accusing him of, just aimed at a different target. Not everyone was frustrated, and that's what complicates the "everybody's furious" narrative. The Warriors, after re-signing Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis and preserving space for Draymond Green's return, kept up their patient pursuit of James. Team sources expressed modest optimism that James would ultimately choose them, while still keeping a roster spot open as long as it took. An organization essentially saying it would wait it out, even without full confidence it would pay off. Meanwhile, James himself broke his silence just enough to add fuel rather than clarity, appearing on a live podcast recording with Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton at a fan event in New York.
He acknowledged how significant the decision really was, for himself, for his family, and for how he wants to spend the final stretch of his career. That's a man openly admitting the stakes are real: family, legacy, the actual end of a career, while still giving zero indication of timing. And that combination is exactly what Stephen A. refuses to accept as an excuse. To him, the emotional weight of the decision and the drawn-out rollout aren't separate things, they're working together. Not everyone agreed with Smith, and the pushback got personal fast. Former NFL player and analyst Emmanuel Acho pushed back directly on Smith's framing, arguing that treating this like a simple rushed decision misunderstood the moment entirely. In Acho's view, a legacy-defining choice, the closing chapter of one of the greatest careers in league history, deserved more patience, not less, and James didn't owe anyone a faster answer just because the news cycle demanded one. Shannon Sharpe took a similar stance from a different angle, highlighting a contradiction in the criticism itself. If James is really the declining, undesired player some analysts were framing him as, Sharpe argued, why is the league commissioner personally pressuring him to hurry up so networks can lock in marquee games like Christmas Day? His point cut straight at Smith's core argument that the suspense wasn't manufactured at all, but genuinely enormous, because a 41-year-old player is still valuable enough to freeze the LA League's entire scheduling process. Either it's a fading story nobody cares about, Sharpe argued, or he's important enough that the commissioner is personally lobbying him. It can't be both. There's also a family dimension that rarely comes up in the "he's just milking it" framing. James and his family have lived in Los Angeles for 8 years. His oldest son, Bronny, remains with the Lakers and is likely to stay there. His younger son, Bryce, plays college basketball at Arizona, and his daughter Zuri plays volleyball at Sierra Canyon in Los Angeles. Moving to the Eastern Conference would mean significantly less time near his family, though staying close to home remains possible if he ultimately chooses Golden State. That's not spin, that's a genuinely complicated logistical reality layered directly on top of a basketball decision. And it's exactly the kind of nuance that gets lost when the story gets flattened into, why won't he just hurry up? Even Stephen A., to his credit, hadn't always been in attack mode. Just months earlier, during a Lakers win streak, he'd gone out of his way to praise LeBron on air, calling his play phenomenal and saying he deserved real credit for how unselfishly he was playing at this stage of his career. That context matters. Smith's frustration was never really about doubting what LeBron can still do on the court. It's specifically about how this one decision has been handled. Interestingly, Kendrick Perkins agreed with that same distinction, even while using the sharpest language of anyone. He made clear he wasn't accusing James of any bad intent, just of enjoying something most people in his position would enjoy. Perkins believed LeBron was savoring the attention, the calls from interested organizations, the calls from fellow stars around the league wanting him on their team. And he added something that actually softened the accusation rather than sharpening it. James doesn't appear to be dragging this out to squeeze out a bigger contract. He's already a billionaire who's earned more off the court than on it, meaning whatever's behind the delay, it isn't about money, and it means he gets to close out his career entirely on his own terms, a luxury very few legends ever get.
So the pushback against Smith wasn't really a defense of the silence as harmless. It was an argument that the silence carries real layers: family, legacy, leverage, and timing around a global sporting event that a 2-minute cable segment tends to flatten into a single word: stalling. So where does this actually leave things? Stephen A. remains frustrated, on record, in real time, with no resolution yet in sight. The 5-team chase is still a 5-team chase. Golden State is still holding space open with cautious optimism. Cleveland is still selling the homecoming built on over 1,000 games of shared history. Philadelphia is still offering arguably the strongest roster with the least glamorous location. Miami is still just one phone call away in Pat Riley's mind, according to the very analyst who's been loudest about wanting this resolved. And James himself has said just enough to keep every camera pointed his way, without ever handing anyone the actual headline. His comments about family and the final stretch of his career didn't resolve anything. They simply confirmed the stakes are exactly as heavy as everyone assumed. What's genuinely remarkable is how much weight one unsigned free agent is carrying across an entire league's operations. It's not just fans refreshing their phones, it's the commissioner's office trying to build a broadcast calendar, front offices holding open roster spots they could otherwise fill, and insiders like Haynes and Stein putting out competing timing theories almost weekly, each one treated as breaking news because of how much attention this single decision commands. Stephen A.'s position hasn't really softened either. He's kept hammering the same point across every platform he has, that a man who's navigated free agency this many times before knows exactly how to draw this out and is choosing to. Perkins' grandstanding comment and Sharp's point about the league's own scheduling demands sit on opposite ends of the same underlying question. Is this manufactured, or is it simply what real unresolved significance looks like when a legend refuses to be rushed? Neither side has really settled that argument, because the only person who can answer it hasn't said a word publicly about why it's taking this long. What is clear is that this free agency doesn't resemble James's past ones, where speculation usually lasted a news cycle or two before an announcement landed. This one has stretched across an entire draft, several blockbuster trades involving other stars, a full World Cup tournament, and now a commissioner publicly asking his own broadcast partners for patience. Every week that passes without an answer adds another layer to the story instead of closing it. For now, the calls keep coming in from Cleveland, from the Bay, from Philadelphia, from Miami. The voice memos keep getting recorded and relayed through Rich Paul, and Stephen A. Smith keeps showing up on camera, saying some version of the same thing the basketball world already senses deep down. Everyone's just waiting for LeBron James to finally say it out loud.